Well, guys, I did it. I broke the bottom plate on my QAV-RXL. I was coming out of a split S. I was going pretty fast, and a tiny little sapling with no leaves on it came out of nowhere. I flew straight into it, whoop, and it swatted me right out of the air. And I went into the ground, and when I picked up the copter, this is what I found. Both sides cracked, broke. And in fact, if you look at the design of the QAV-RXL, it actually will start to become obvious why it broke where it did. And I think this points to a trade-off that was made in the design of the QAV-RXL. They had to lengthen it to make it fit an 1800 milliamp hour battery, right? But you've got this front end from the QAV210 and the QAV-R, the standard one, not the XL. And it's all boxed in and it's super rigid and strong. And then you've got this section here with the legs, and it's super strong and reinforced. And then you've got this little length of carbon fiber plate where they stretched the bottom plate to fit the bigger battery. And that's the obvious weak point here, right? If something's got to give, that's what's going to give. So if you fly this copter, you should be aware that I think that's a trade-off that is being made. Whereas if you compare it to the standard QAV-R, which you can see here, notice that here are the legs, and it's a little hard to see, but here is the vertical standoff, and here's the boxed front end. So the boxed in front end goes right up against the strong legs, and then then you got this part hanging off the back, but that's not the part that's going to go into the ground in a crash. So I feel like the QAV-R may be a more durable design than the QAV-RXL, and that if you really want to run an 1800 milliamp hour battery, you may be better off just taking the high def camera off and putting an 1800 on the QAV-R. I haven't flown this enough. I've flown it enough to get it dirty, but I haven't flown it enough to really crash it and really test out its durability. But I have friends who've flown a QAV-210, and they say that since Lumineer fixed the problem with the top plate, where they had the 1.5 millimeter top plate that was breaking a lot, now they have the 2 millimeter top plate. And also there was an extra cutout in the bottom plate that they got rid of that was a weak spot. They say that the QAV-R and the QAV-210 are really pretty solid frames and really pretty hard to break. But I'm surprised at how quickly the QAV-RXL broke. Now, it was a hard crash. Was it the hardest crash I've ever taken? I don't know. Everything went black and spinny and then went to static. So maybe I just got unlucky and I had a really hard crash on like the 5th day of flying the frame and it broke. Or maybe that's a weak spot in the frame. I don't know. There you go. And by the way, now I have got everything moved over to the QAV-R frame that was sent along, and I gave that a fly. And I got to tell you, I think it flies better than the XL, and I kind of am kicking myself for saying that because, like, it's at most an inch more compact, right? So how much difference could there really be? But it feels like there's a little bit of difference, and it feels like it flies better. So anyway, if you notice from now on that I'm flying a QAV-R, and you say, wait a minute, I thought he was flying a QAV-RXL. Well, that's why. I've moved everything over to the R and from the XL. It was totally easy to do. Just I unscrewed all the arms, didn't even have to take the motors or the ESCs off, pulled all the guts out, transferred everything over. Really piece of cake. So maybe if you really want the maximum durability, maybe you should just fly the regular R and not the XL. Hope that's helpful. Happy flying.